Yeah, I want to film now. Oh, lucky. This is lucky. And I'm in Singapore right now, actually, but I want to film about Thailand. We won the jackpot. 3 months with three adorable, super cute cats in a big house in paradise. Yes, I have my own bed, even my own room, my own bathroom, and even my own office with a balcony that I can suntan. The kitchen in the house is typical Thai. A sink and a hot plate. They added some tables and cupboards and an air fryer, an oven, and another hot plate. Well, induction, I hate induction. They're so stupid. When a pan is a bit too big, it won't work. As soon as you take the pan off, it shuts off. Anyways, but the kitchen was usable. So that was a bit weird. The faucet in the kitchen only had hot water, but like warm water that turned hotter. I don't remember if it got super hot, but no cold water. So we didn't have any cold water in the kitchen, and that's a bit hard. Like, for example, when you hard boil eggs or soft boil eggs, when you boil eggs and then you want to put them in cold water, or for cleaning fish, you want to clean fish with cold water. So, but then I just kept a bottle with tap water in the fridge, and when I needed cold water, I just got that one out and used that. So that was totally workable. And so a little bit sad, the fridge and the freezer, they weren't in the kitchen. It was like outside of the kitchen. So I always had to go out to get stuff from the freezer and kitchen, bring it back to the kitchen. But I mean, it's okay, it works. It's just, I'm not used to that. Oh, and the best part, so in another building across from the main house in the workshop, there was a real kitchen. Gas, 4 burners, and an oven, yeah, and 2 faucets, so one with cold water, one with hot water. Yeah, so cool. I love that kitchen, but unfortunately, I only used it once in those 3 months we spent there. I thought, oh, I'm gonna cook so much over there and stuff. So, but once I organized everything in that kitchen in the house, I didn't wanna always move everything to the other kitchen because it wasn't like very close. I had to go through the house and over to the other building. So as I mentioned, I just used it once. So that was a bit sad. So yeah, I love gas so much, but unfortunately it was just too far away from the main kitchen. And apparently, so you can't get cold and hot water from the same faucet in Thailand. Well, or at least where we were in Mae Rim, Chiang Mai. So that's why in the workshop there are 2 faucets, one with cold water, one with hot water. Yeah, and there was a barbecue outside in front of the workshop. We thought, oh, we're gonna use it so much, we're gonna barbecue all the time and stuff. But so there were coals already in the barbecue, so we used that for one barbecue session, and it barely worked. We barely had enough, and then we just couldn't find any barbecue wood or coal at any of the grocery stores we went. So we couldn't use it anymore. We couldn't find it anywhere. So in the shower, there was a heater, so I could get hot water there. But most times, even though I turned it on, it didn't work at all. But sometimes it did work, but then the water would get scalding hot. So 90, I saw it, there were like the numbers on it, and it went up to 99 degrees Celsius. So it was like almost boiling. So yeah, really dangerous. But then I actually figured out how to regulate it. Then it changed, so between 38 and 41 degrees without me turning any switches. So it never stayed constantly at the same temperature. But actually, it was so hot there anyways. I didn't really shower with warm or hot water. I just showered cold anyways. And actually, sometimes I wished the water would get even colder so I could cool down even more. So I think the water got just to around 28 or 30 degrees Celsius. So I couldn't get it colder. Oh, and there was a water filter on the shower head. Oh, for years I've wanted that. I still want one of those, so cool. But honestly, we didn't know if it was still working, the filter on the shower head, but it was still cool, it was there. The surrounding there is beautiful. I loved it so much. I felt like I'm in paradise. It looked like jungle. It looked like untouched nature, but they were landscapers. So landscapers and caretakers were taking care of the property. Na, our weekly cleaning lady, she is also the caretaker, I think. Well, she was mowing the grass around it, and she looked after the garden. In those 3 months we stayed in Mae Rim, Thailand, we saw and especially heard a lot of different animals, and we were also taking care of the 3 cats there. But more about all the animals in a separate video later. Trusted house sitters in Mae Rim, Thailand, the animals. Yes, I do prefer it to be totally quiet, especially during the night. But out in nature, you have sounds all the time. Day, night, all the time, and sometimes quite loud. But it didn't bother me that much, and I also got used to it, so it was totally okay. Ooh, but I so loved that AC unit that was in my room. You could push a button and then the light of the AC turned off, and it was much more darker. So I love that so much. So far, during all our travels, I only had ACs where I couldn't do that, and so I usually taped something over it because that light is so bright and I don't like it. I prefer it to be like pitch black at night. And even the AC unit we had in Reno, Nevada, the US, where we lived before we started this Nomad Life, there too, in my room, I taped the number, so I taped it over, and I think we forgot. We said like, yeah, we need to take this off before we move out. And then I saw it, but all our furniture and stepping stools or like ladders or whatever, nothing was there anymore. So it was like, okay, we can't take it off anymore, so we just left it. When we first arrived, on March 5th, 2025, all the windows were open. Well, there are screens in front of the windows, and all the fans were running and the ACs were turned off. So we kept it that way for at least 2 weeks or even longer. But then it got hotter and hotter. March and April is the hot season there, and it can get really hot. So we closed up all the windows and still left all the fans on, but we used AC in our rooms when we were in our room. During the night, I usually turned off my AC and sometimes even the fan. So I just figured out I can't leave my windows open anymore. Look at this. It's so bad. There are screens in front of all the windows. I had this window open and this window open, so I didn't need the AC anymore. I thought, oh, that's good, because when we got here in March, we did that for like a month, or at least the first 2 weeks. All the windows were open and there were screens, and we never got that many insects in here. It's so bad. But so now it's May, middle of May, and Paul said it's like hatching season. Look at my bed. Oh my gosh, look at this. Yeah, so I can't do that anymore. So no. Oh my gosh, can you see this? We have this cool thing. I've never used it before. Ooh. Ooh! Oh, that's me. Okay, so I have to push this button, and every time this sound, yeah, that's every time one of them flies into it when this makes a sound. So we need the cats in here. They usually eat them.
The cats are outside where there's more fun, bigger shit to kill.
Where the fuck did you get all this? Oh my god. Are they coming out from the drain?
No, it's the light. I told you they would seek water.
It smells! It smells burnt!
Yeah, well, fuck.
It smells burnt! Oh my god! So bad. There are some neighbors, including the chief, living not too far away, but it was actually really quiet there, except for the nature sounds, of course. In March, we heard, I guess, like prayers or chanting from a nearby Wat, we think, temple, but it wasn't bad at all. Unfortunately, sometimes at night there was like music and karaoke, and it was quite loud. But it stopped around midnight, and I think it was only during the holiday season, not all the time. Well, we lived in places, for example here, where it was much more noisy, like with construction work and stuff. So the noise in Mae Rim, Thailand was totally durable. But it was just so sad because that place was so amazing, is so amazing, really paradise. It's so cool, and then it would just be so much better if there would be like no noise except for the nature sounds. Oh yeah, and I remember, unfortunately, with the music they were playing, the bass, I got problems with my body. Like I could feel it in my body, and yeah, it wasn't really good. Oh yeah, but we did get construction noise, just a little bit, and towards the end of May, so towards the end of our stay, from a nearby house that was, yeah, close by, they started to do construction work. And I think like in other countries where it gets really, really hot, most outside work will get done in the months that are not so hot. We stayed in Mae Rim, Thailand from March 4th, 2025 until May 30th, 2025. A long stay. So finally, I had time to read real books. Well, during my nomad life, I don't want to carry around books, of course, and I just read here online books. What I really hate, I hate reading books online, but yeah, what should I do on a nomad life? I can't carry around 50 books. But so there were books available in other places we stayed, but I didn't want to start reading a book and then not being able to finish it. So 3 months, that's a long time, and they have books there. So I read 2 real books. Yeah. Oh, and I still kept reading the books online. I'm not reading just one book. I always read multiple books. Well, not at the same time. That's not really possible. But usually I read 3 books, as I have 3 books started, and I read 1 chapter from each book every day. Paul told me that in Thailand, the landlord is allowed to enter your place, well, his place, you are just renting it and living there. But so anyways, the landlord is allowed to enter it at any time he wants. He could enter it in the middle of the night and wake you up in your bed. But most Thais are Buddhists, and they are very respectful people. I don't know, maybe it's different in Bangkok, but in Mae Rim, I don't think a landlord would ever do that unless it's an emergency. Mae Rim, by the way, is kind of considered the rich part of Chiang Mai. Well, for sure there where we were living. Our hosts, before they left, they told us they never lock anything, not the cars, not the house, nothing. Everything stays unlocked. So we did the same. And as mentioned, the chief doesn't live far away from that house. So it was really super, super safe there. Every Wednesday, the water delivery guys came. They delivered 20 bottles, I think each containing 1 liter of water. Well, not just water, treated by reverse osmosis and ozonated. For that, we paid 40 Thai baht, $1.19. Even though we also drank a lot of sparkling waters that we got from the grocery store, those 20 bottles per week weren't enough for us. So once in a while, I don't think once a week, but maybe every 10 days or so, we also bought a big container of water. I think that was like a 6-liter container of water, so we had enough drinking water. I saw in front of other houses that they delivered like 3 cases at the same time, or also like containers for those water dispensers. But our hosts didn't have a water dispenser, and they just have that set up that once a week they get 1 case. So we didn't want to change anything like that, so it was totally fine. I prefer it so much more living outside in nature, a bit more outside of a city or a town or even a village, like really by myself, surrounded by nature. I prefer that so much more. Like that house was really beautiful, but of course, nothing really was in walking distance. Our hosts gave us names for drivers, but they were way too expensive. They cost for 5 hours, what is considered a day, 1,500 Thai baht, $44.35. Oh no, that was way too much. And Grab worked fine there. Only once we got a guy who couldn't find the house, so we actually got into the truck. We were allowed to use a truck for like just the close area there. So we just got into the truck and drove to the close by resort, and then the Grab driver picked us up there. But that only happened once. Other than that, then the Grab drivers found our place. Well, we just walked up the hill and got to the street, and Paul on the phone explained them where exactly to drive and stuff, so so they could find it. So it worked fine. Grab worked fine, and it was so much cheaper, of course. But sometimes we had to wait a long time until we got someone that wanted to drive out to us. And sometimes they wanted more money. But so the best way was actually to schedule a Grab, like days in advance or an hour in advance, like that. Especially when we wanted to go further away, like for example, to the hospital in Chiang Mai. Yeah, here is that video back at the hospital. So from the drivers we liked and they lived in our areas, we collected their business card, their contact numbers or whatever. And so we had Man, Bum, and Oscar, and they were great. They gave us great prices and their cars didn't smell. Man's car had one of those car fresheners I hate so much, but I could manage. It was okay. So we ended up using Oscar the most. So he was our regular driver. And when he didn't have time for us, we just then ordered a Grab. Oh yeah, the prices change all the time. Well, not with Grab, but then Oscar, we didn't do it over Grab anymore. We had his number. So sometimes he said, oh, I'll take you there for that much. And then another day it was a little bit more, another day it was a little bit less. So you just have to haggle a bit. And when you have someone like we had Oscar, that was our regular driver, they're really fair and they make good prices for you. So I really advise you, if you stay somewhere for a longer period of time, to collect contacts of the drivers you like, and then maybe end up with one or two that you regularly use, and you don't have to go through the app anymore, and then usually it's a little bit cheaper and you can trust that driver, so it's totally worth it. So most times when we ordered a Grab in advance or ask one of our preferred drivers in advance to pick us up at a certain time, they arrive 15 minutes too early. Paul loved that. He likes that so much better than like in countries like Albania or Italy where they notoriously late. But at first, this really stressed me out. I don't like people being too early. I'm usually not ready earlier than the time I said I will be ready. So for example, the cleaning lady, if the cleaning lady says she would show up at 10 and then she shows up at 9:30, I have problems. I have real problems because I schedule my day like at 10 she will be here, and then suddenly she's here half an hour or too early. Yeah, I'm getting real problems, my Asperger's. But with the drivers being 15 minutes too early, I mean, they just sitting in their car in front of the house shouldn't bother me at all. I mean, they're not in my way, whatever, and they're really used to that. So as I mentioned, it happened all the time. Basically, when you scheduled, ordered, pre-ordered a car, they came too early and they just sat there until it was time to go. So I'm like, okay, then I was okay with it. And I was like, okay, that's not my problem. If they want to sit there for 15 minutes, I'm not going to stress out. I'm going to go according to my plan. I'll be ready when I said I'm ready. And yeah, so it's totally fine. But I had to get used to it and really tell myself, okay, don't stress yourself. It doesn't matter if they're waiting. If they're too early, you're not late. You still have 15 minutes. That's a long time. So for an entire day, we didn't have running water. Paul contacted the landlord in the morning, but the landlord said he couldn't find a worker to come over on that day. But then the next day, in the morning, right away, workers came over and fixed it really nicely, all done. I think there was something in the pipe that blocked it. So yeah, very good, done, no problems, not like a week of waiting or whatever. We also had multiple power outages when there were thunderstorms, and there are a lot, but they weren't bad at all. I think they didn't last more than an hour, except for one. There was one that lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes. But even that's not that bad. We experienced much worse power outages. yeah, I think so far we experienced power outages in Thailand, Albania, Turkey, Montenegro, Slovenia. Oh, and actually also in Reno, Nevada, the US, where we used to live before we started that Nomad Life. So I guess it's actually normal to have power outages once in a while, or I don't know. I grew up in Switzerland. We never ever, well, I never ever experienced power outage in Switzerland ever. But yeah, I figured out during my nomad life now, Switzerland is kind of on a different level than most of the countries. That place was the best we stayed so far. We both loved it so much. And not just because of the house and the location, of course also because of the 3 adorable cats. They played a huge role in that as well. But more about that in a future video. Stay happy, stay healthy.